Hello everyone, welcome back to Legends of StarCraft. I'm Subsourian and we have Mark here, and today we are honored to be joined by the voice of Tassadar himself, Michael Gough. So, how are you doing today, Michael?
Very well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful, good to have you on. Tell us a little about your history of voice acting. Your how you got to the prolific resume you have today, because boy, you have a pretty long one.
Yep.
Well, if you hang around long enough, I guess it gets, things get added over time. Well, it's a story I've told. It's not all that interesting, really, but I mean, even the whole acting thing wasn't necessarily something that was on my radar. I was in college, and I was almost done with college, and just kind of on a lark, because I saw these signs around campus that said audition for original one-act plays. And I always enjoyed reading out loud. So I just thought it would be fun to try this once before I leave college. And I didn't even know what I was going to do, really. I was an English major. I didn't really want to teach, and I'm saying, what else is there? So I went to the auditions for these one-act plays and got chosen to be in one of them. And it was just, I can't remember if it was one or two performances, but it suddenly dawned on me, something bit me, and I thought, I wonder if this could be an actual thing to try to do. And I'm still really good friends with the woman who wrote that play. It was a playwriting class in college, and they chose some of them to produce. So, longer story shorter, maybe I just, stuck around in college because I didn't know what else I was going to do. And this sort of a light bulb kind of went off. So I stuck around and got a degree in theater. So I got a second degree. And then I moved to LA. I went to college in Santa Barbara, California. I don't know, where are you guys?
Oh, I'm in DC. I'm East Coast, and
Okay,
Mark, you're in Utah, correct?
Yeah. Yep. I'm over here in Utah.
Yeah.
Where everything is hot.
Everywhere's hot.
Really? Well, yeah, it's
all the time.
Pretty hot here.
Yeah.
And I just, I came to LA and started I did a lot of theater, and I did some on-camera stuff here and there, and I had gotten an on-camera agent when I came here, but I, even the voiceover thing wasn't on my radar until I took a class, because it was something that was in the back of my mind, because I did always enjoy reading out loud, and I thought, I'm pretty good at just like picking stuff up and reading it and maybe sounding like different characters or something. So I took this class, and the woman who taught the class was real helpful to me, and she kind of steered me towards this agent who had just left a big agency and it started off on her own. So it took a while, but I did manage to get signed with this agent who I'm still with all these years later. And and she was strictly a voiceover agent. So that's when I started, auditioning for voice stuff. And I remember, my first pretty big job was the Winnie the Pooh cartoon.
Gopher, yeah.
Gopher. Yeah. And that was a sound-alike, which there's a lot of, some of the bigger stuff that I've gotten to do has been sound-alike stuff for characters that already existed. And
you're kind of the official Shrek sound-alike too, I know.
Right? Yes, that's right. So yeah, it just sort of the path of the voice acting thing just kind of presented itself after I took this class, and it took a little doing to finally get signed with this agent. But then, I started auditioning for voice stuff, and here and there I would get something, and it just started that way. But it was, once it started happening, it seemed like, this feels like the right path.
We've talked to a few, and that seems to be a common pipeline: is theater to voice acting. There's a lot of that.
I think it gives you, a lot of good experience, and you're tapping into your imagination, and you're playing, you get to play more different characters as a voice, because it doesn't necessarily matter what you look like. And I was still doing a lot of theater. I haven't done a play for, the last one I did was before the pandemic, so it's been a while. But, it's something I don't want to say I'm not going to do it anymore. It takes a lot of time. It takes up a lot of time.
Prep, and you got to dress up and learn the emotions and the voice. So.
You rehearse for several months, but it's great. And but the whole voice thing, it just became, because when I was a kid, I remember I would sit in front of the TV and just kind of try to mimic things that I heard on TV. So it was not that unusual of a thing to do. So that's my long answer.
That's a good path, and it got you
I
success.
Actually have it's amazing. I have a question real quick. Did you, before we, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, sorry, my sound's cutting out. Before we get Tassadar, did you ever work with like Howard Morris for doing Gopher, or Mike Myers for Shrek? Did you ever work with any of the guys like that?
No, but I did. I've never met Mike Myers in person. I did meet Howard Morris years later.
Awesome.
And here's an interesting thing too. One of the other sound-alikes that I did was Roger Rabbit for Disney.
Yeah, geez, I haven't thought. I didn't know they did more with that.
Roger Rabbit kind of came and then went, but and this was weird. It made me feel awkward. But so I guess they had auditions to sound like Roger Rabbit, and they picked me, which was great. But then the guy who was like the main casting guy for the sound-alike stuff at Disney, and Disney has a whole department called Disney Character Voices. And their sole job is to oversee every character that's ever existed for Disney, to make sure, if they need a voice for something, even if it's a character that's been in mothballs for decades, they have to know what it sounds like, and then they have to find people. And they have to cast all these characters in different languages all around the world.
Oh yeah, that's a huge thing. Localization.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of taking a quick detour here, but and I remember once I was over there at their headquarters for something, and the guy there said, "Hey, you want to hear something interesting?" So he played. It was a casting session for the character of Gopher in Chinese. It was one, some dialect of Chinese, like Mandarin, or I'm not sure. But the normal way of speaking in Chinese, apparently there was no like S sound.
Oh, that's kind of important for Gopher.
Right.
Very important.
So he played me the audition, and it pretty much went like this: whoever was speaking, and I'm just going to mock some Chinese because I don't speak Chinese, so I hope it's not offensive. But it's like, oh, Xin Dong, oh, Zhao Winnie Pooh, Wei Xi Dong, oh, Da Dong. It would just pause every few seconds and whistle.
So it wasn't slurring the words; it was just a whistle.
No, it was just a standalone little whistle every now and then. It was funny. But quickly, getting back to your question, when I was doing the Roger Rabbit, the guy did bring me into a recording session of the original Roger Rabbit, Charles Fleischer, his name, and they said, "Here, stand in the back of the control booth. Don't let him see you, but we just want you to see what he's doing so you can hear it and watch his body." And that was weird. It's like, I don't really need to watch him, but I had to stay hidden. They didn't want him to know that somebody else was, there and was going to do something.
Weird, yeah.
They needed it.
Getting the secret knowledge of how of Roger Rabbit.
Right.
Where did you voice Roger?
Well, there weren't that many things, but there were a few like little short videos. And the one thing that I remember specifically was it was for the Super Bowl halftime show. This was like in the early 90s. Now, what happened was during the halftime of the Super Bowl, they cut away because it was like the beginning of I think it was like the Gulf War in Iraq. So you never saw the halftime show because they cut to this. It was news the whole time. Then they went back to the game, and I had never seen it. And for some reason, it just popped into my head like a month ago, and I wonder, and I searched YouTube, and it's like, bingo, there it is. Somebody posted the halftime show of that Super Bowl. So I watched it, and there it is. There's Roger Rabbit running around as part of the whole thing, and he's whatever he's saying. So it does exist, and it's somewhere on YouTube.
Lost media elsewhere. To the Gulf War. That's a shame. Hey, not many people can say they participated in a halftime show, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And I will say that as the voice of Gopher, and there were a couple other things, but I am in a ride at Disneyland and Disney World, I guess, the Winnie the Pooh ride. And once upon a time, there was a parade called Light Magic.
I don't
know if you know about the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Yeah,
I remember that parade. It was insane how it looked. Yeah,
they got rid of it for a while, and they replaced it with this other thing called Light Magic, which wasn't really that popular a decision. It didn't. It lasted for like 1 year, and then they said, "Let's bring back the electrical parade." But but I was the voice of the narrator that you heard, over the loudspeakers or whatever for the Light Magic parade. So there were a couple things that I've gotten to do that ended up happening at Disneyland or Disney parks.
In the parks, yeah.
So that's
awesome.
Before we get too far into Blizzard, I also wanted to ask about your music. You're also a musician, and I saw that you do the theremin, which that's really, I don't know how do you get into theremin, and also bagpipes, which is how do you practice bagpipes without annoying your neighbors, basically.
It's very hard. I just do it whenever not that I have the occasion to play bagpipes or theremin very often, but if I do, then I need to practice a little bit. And since you mentioned the theremin, I have to bring up the fact that it was like 3 weeks ago, this past weekend, I actually had a rare theremin gig.
Really?
This, and it was really, it was awesome. It was I got invited to the Creation Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. And so, and this was, it was one of the events there. It was a performance, a reading with like, celebrity cast, a lot of people that are familiar to Star Trek in the Star Trek universe. Of the script of the movie Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh boy.
if you're familiar with that, it's kind of generally known as the worst movie ever made, but it's so bad that it's great.
We do watch parties of that all the time. It's
oh yeah. And if you've ever seen the Tim Burton movie Ed Wood with Johnny Depp, and it's about the making of Plan 9 from Outer Space. So they did this staged reading of the script, and they asked me to be the musical accompaniment for this thing on the theremin. So yeah, it was crazy because there was no rehearsal at all, but I did talk to the writer producer once, like over the phone, and kind of mapped out a few ideas of what to do here and there throughout the script. So it was all okay. We'll just fly by the seat of our pants and see what happens. But
that when you can improvise a good bit too. So
yeah. But I got to like open up the show by playing the Star Trek theme, and then there were different little musical things and sound effects all throughout the script, and some of it was totally unplanned, but it was wild. It was a blast, and it was it was in one of the big venues at the convention, which was at the Rio Hotel in Las Vegas. There were at least 1,000 people for this, and it was the theremin. That was one of the rare, and that might have been the best theremin thing, or at least one of that I've ever gotten to do.
I'll have to see if that's recorded because that sounds like a blast.
I'll have to hit them up again because I don't want to bother them too much, but so far I know that there was a camera person there, and there was like a, kind of a professional video camera set up. So I know that there are some official photos and or video, but nothing's been posted yet that I can find. And I asked once, and the guy said, well, the photographer came down with COVID after the show, so but it's been a few weeks now, so I'll check again. I would love to see.
That sounds like most of those conventions are posting them, but because they want everyone to see it. But.
Yeah. Well, it was super hectic as soon as I got there. I barely had time to throw my phone to somebody to get a quick photo of me when I was kind of setting up and warming up. And then I did get a cat photo after the show, which I put those 2 photos up on Instagram. But that's it. That's all I got.
Hey, you can say you've made use of that theremin skill, because it's one of those instruments I've always wanted to play, which is why it caught my eye. So
shoot, I did have it set up right over here, but it's put away now.
That's fine. If we find it, we'll definitely post a link if they had to post it.
Yeah.
So to get to the Blizzard, I know your first role was probably your most iconic, which was how did you kind of get your way into the Deckard Cain role for Diablo? Was that through your agent or?
Well, it's weird. I was doing. There used to be several companies under the whole umbrella of Blizzard, and one of them was
Blizzard North, or
I think
what, Condor?
This was like way back. It was like educational software. It was like Reading Blaster, Math Blaster. I think Educational Insights may have been the name of the company, but it was all, like different, like CD-ROMs for, aimed at younger audiences, but helping with reading.
I grew up on those, so.
Yeah, but what was really cool about it is that you got to play different characters throughout, for different games or different, learning platforms. So I was at there where I went to record those things at the headquarters, not the Blizzard headquarters, but kind of the headquarters of this educational software company. And I remember one time after we were done, they said, "Hey, we have another character for something else that we're working on that we thought maybe you'd like to try. We'd just like to hear how it would sound if you tried a few lines." And I remember it was like an older kind of a wizard character, and they suggested, yeah, he might sound like an older Sean Connery or something. So I just started, I laid down some lines for that, and then I don't even. It's all kind of fuzzy in the beginning. I remember that they did record. Okay, remember that character that you read last time? We're gonna record some more lines of that, and I didn't even know what it was, and I don't even think it was an actual job or something at first. I think maybe they were just stealing some lines. But then it turned out, oh, okay, that's this character from this thing called Diablo, which, Diablo 1. And then it became like, oh, this is an actual character in a game. Okay. And then, in the beginning, Deckard Cain pretty much just, kind of helped you do things and, I'll help you find your stuff. And then sort of lead you down, tell you where to go and watch out for, evil things.
Yeah, the narrator, yeah.
Yeah. But then, he expanded, and his whole reason for being there got more and more important, and, and then the whole mythology of Diablo and Cain's, journals and all kinds of stuff. So, but it all started from just that, that little reading some of those lines. And now I always ask, I imagine maybe, are you familiar with the Cain rap?
Yes, I have heard the Cain rap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They one time after a session, they said, "Hey, we have this thing here," and the music had already been produced, and it was really cool. And they had some lines written, and they say, "We want to try to, make something out of this. We don't know what it's for." I still don't know what it was for, but so they had some lines and they played the music, and I will take credit for coming up with at least half the lines that ended up in that thing. Like
Blizzard, Blizzard loves their Easter eggs, and I remember.
I don't know. Did it ever actually show up as an Easter egg anywhere?
I think it was in 2. I'm more StarCraft than Diablo, but I do remember the Deckard Cain rap showing up. They usually hide it in really deep, and that one was definitely on the disc. So
yeah. But it's on YouTube or.
It's around. Yeah, it's been well heard.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of things for me at Blizzard, for sure.
Yeah, and so how did that lead you into the role of Tassadar, or was that whole?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't remember, because I think there was an original Tassadar that was different.
Really?
I believe that Tassadar existed before I came along.
I'll have to write that down, because that's the first we've heard of that.
Don't hold me to that, but I seem to think that was true.
It's pretty common that's happened, and we can ask around. But that's part of the show is to find a lot of the development things that we've never known. So it's
And I certainly have auditioned for things for Blizzard, and not gotten most of them. And I honestly don't remember. It seems to me that Tassadar was something that just sort of came up, that I was, asked to do it without having auditioned for it, because somebody knew me, at Blizzard. But I apologize. My memory on how Tassadar came, what the origin story for me is fuzzy.
That's
But
right.
I think that's what happened. I think it's just something that they said, hey, they want to use you for this thing on StarCraft.
Oh.
Okay, great.
That's
Which
a cool
I mean, that doesn't happen too often. It does to certain people. I know there are voice actors who basically never audition.
Yeah, the ones that they want.
Yeah.
The iconic voice.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you this real quick. This is the concept art.
Yeah.
Tassadar. I don't know if this will spark your memory at all, but I thought I'd show you.
So when we talk, oh, go ahead.
I will say, and I do remember some of the other artwork that they showed for Tassadar and other things. I mean, that's one thing that Blizzard just kills is their artwork and their, the visuals that they create are amazing. I don't know if you've seen. I think I have it somewhere, but I haven't really looked all the way through it. It's the book of the art of Blizzard.
Yes, the cinematic art.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And I mean, heck, Mark wanted to show, but we have we both have the little Tassadar figure too. So yeah, they put out an action figure for
he's you. Really good.
Now I need to get one of those.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Good
he's
for the collection.
Just look up Tassadar action figure.
Yeah.
It's on eBay is usually like $110, $20 usually.
It's
a lot, but that's because he's like rare. He's
He's a popular.
It's the tail end of their StarCraft line before they stopped randomly.
So one of the kind of more iconic parts of Tassadar is banter with Paul Edding's character Aldaris. I don't know if you got to talk with him at all. Did you all record together, or was that? I know Blizzard also had kind of a corner booth essentially where they recorded their lines. So I don't know if there was enough to have a duel.
Well, I think most of the stuff that I recorded for StarCraft and Tassadar has been at one of two places. One was a place not far from me, really, called LA Studios. And that's where Blizzard did a lot of their recording that was not at their headquarters. I've been to their headquarters a couple of times, and it's amazing. But mostly they would record at studios here. And the other place is a place called The Village, which for decades was strictly a recording studio for music. And you walk in there and it's this old like brick building that's like a block long, few stories high. And they have like framed like gold albums, platinum albums, whatever, all over the wall of things that were recorded there. Like all these famous rock albums and rap albums. So it was like, whoa, this is like amazing. But yeah, now I know Paul Eiding. I knew him before, before I even started getting into the voice acting, I think, from the world of theater. But no, we never recorded together. That's the whole thing about video games. Rarely. It used to be with animation that you would record with a group, like Winnie the Pooh, even though not everybody was there. Piglet, he was in New York, and Tigger, Piglet was a guy named John Fiedler, and that's how he sounds. If you look him up, he's been in tons of like TV and movie stuff.
Yeah,
that's his natural voice. He's the way he talks is the way he talks.
Oh,
And then
bother.
Paul Winchell, who was the voice of Tigger, he was in LA, but he was a really interesting guy. He was a ventriloquist.
Hmm.
He had his own TV show for a while. He invented the first prototype of the artificial heart. He was like this brilliant
Wow.
guy, and he basically recorded all his stuff by himself. The only time I got to work with him once or twice is when there was some singing involved in a Winnie the Pooh episode, and we would then it would be with him. And it used to be more so, everything's kind of isolated now. But with cartoons, you would record with a group. Video games, it's almost always just you.
I know for cutscenes they've started doing group ones, but those are more, they're frankly cartoons, so I imagine it's similar.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think the last time I recorded stuff for a video game with some other people was for now I'm blanking on the title. Yeah, I know that I was a South African mercenary. That was the character. It's a pretty big, video game franchise. I'm blanking on the name of it all.
When they came to you about it, or at any point during development, did they talk to you about the character or the motivations or like the intricacies of him? Like, what was your relationship with the character? Was it just a job that you recorded and left, or were you involved in any way?
Well, I mean, I kind of try. Sorry. I think that the game I was talking about is Uncharted.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
That is a very cinematic game, so
Yeah,
good.
that's okay.
Yeah. And that was, I think, the last time I recorded a video game there were like 2 or 3 other guys there at the same time. So Tassadar, that's why it seems to me that the character existed before I came along. I don't remember that there was a whole lot of okay, here's this. I mean, certainly, and I try, whatever I do, I kind of, I don't usually just sort of go in, do it, and then forget about it. Because I kind of, I get into it and I'm, I want it to be, as good as it can be and be interesting, but I'm always curious and interested too. It's like, oh, this is cool. Tell me, I'm fascinated by most of this stuff. And I can't say that there was really much of let's sit down and figure this character out and what motivates him, and which that's kind of why I think that the character already existed and they sort of explained, okay, here's what's going on here. I mean, that's what you get, hopefully. And that's the other thing about video games. You don't know, and they don't want you to know more than you need to know.
They don't want leaks.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll tell you specifically what's going on with whatever it is you have in front of you. But then, other than that, mum's the word. They want to keep everything a secret until it's out. So it was, whatever it was, whatever this scene is at the time, or whatever's going on here with Tassadar, that it, they gave me the information that I needed. I'm not that I can retain much of what happened, but it'll be interesting to look up Tassadar's history. When did he first appear? Because now I'm more curious than ever. Because
I know he's early in the writing process because they had art very early on for him.
Now I wonder if I've mixed up Tassadar and Mal'Ganis, because I think Mal'Ganis existed before I came along.
Mal'Ganis had a previous actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe that's where I'm confused.
It's okay.
So forgive me.
You did them both in the Heroes, so maybe that's where that
Okay.
confusion comes in. Yeah,
I think that's probably why
maybe.
I
Yeah,
thought that. I'm getting my Blizzard
it's all right, man.
lore confused.
That's okay.
So
Bounce
yeah,
between three
Star
games.
may
Yeah.
like the original with me. And again, and even like Deckard Cain, there was really no information.
Yeah.
You know, as it went along, then you start finding out all this backstory about him. But in the beginning, you know, he was, you just knew that he was this old guy, and you know, he was a Herodrum, which wasn't really sure what that meant.
They just say the word, and then
Yeah, and that they originally kind of thought that he might sound like an older Sean Connery, but then his personality, you know, blossomed as time went on and more information was created, and just my whole thought about his personality. And with Tassadar, yeah, I'm sure you guys could probably fill me in better on what he really means to you guys.
Oh, he's a heroic. He's definitely, and it's interesting because for a minor role, he's kind of one of the more iconic performances in one of like this heroic character who only lasted the one game, but the whole linchpin of the finale is his sacrifice.
Yeah.
He defeats the Overmind. He's kind of personifies, even well after his death, one of the three races of the game that everyone plays.
Everybody, I don't know if you know this, but the phrase Intar Wadun, which everybody, including Tassadar himself, said in StarCraft 1, now it's Intar Tassadar.
So,
and all the way through StarCraft 2.
He gets this really cool. Big honor, yeah. So
yeah.
he's a very impactful character. Yeah. But that actually leads me, because they bring it back in 2 with Michael Dorn doing the voice. It's not Tassadar. It's a guy, basically a god disguised as Tassadar, to put it simply. But we were wondering if they approached you for that, because it was always hinted that they used you for Heroes to specifically signify this is Tassadar, but used Michael Dorn as the signifier of this isn't Tassadar. I say, if it's Worf, it's fake. If it's Deckard Cain, it's the real Tassadar.
That's Worf.
Boy, I don't remember if I don't recall being approached, you know, for 2 specifically. And, you know, they, as with also Mal'Ganis, even more so, I think, they do kind of tweak the voice a little bit. They kind of, I think they do a little bit of a pitch tweak, give it a little more bottom end than I naturally have. And, you know, Michael Dorn, he doesn't need that.
No, that man there is no bottom for that voice.
Yep, there is no bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't recall being, you know, I think I would, if they had approached me, but then like pulled it away, I think I would have, which has happened on more times than I care to remember.
Yeah. But did they then approach you for Heroes of the Storm? Because kind of midway through Michael Dorn and 2, you came back for Heroes as Tassadar.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it wasn't like, it was just, here's something for Tassadar. It wasn't like we didn't use you for this, but now we're using you again.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, I guess at the time, maybe I wasn't even aware that Tassadar sort of reincarnated in this different form yet. Yeah. It's just, you know, any time that I had gotten to do something for Blizzard, and then, you know, the majority of it was Deckard Cain.
Yeah, that's one of the most iconic performances they have. So
yeah.
for a while, I don't know if this is true anymore, but when you would call Blizzard, they had me record the lines of their voicemail service.
Oh my gosh, I think I remember that. Wow. That was
If it
a while
That's
ago.
actually really cool.
called after hours or whatever, you would get the automatic, and it would be Deckard Cain.
That's really cool.
Greetings. If you know the name of the wretched soul you're trying to find, press 1.
That's fun.
I don't know if it's still there. But I was always, it was just, I was always very grateful and excited to do stuff for Blizzard because it's all, it's well written. It's just good. And to have that kind of stuff that you can chew into and read that kind of, character and have it's great.
And so did they bring you back again? I know they did another skin for Tassadar where there's a whole different voice set, Mecha Tassadar, where you had to do a transformer. Do you remember anything of that process? The second skin set that was basically a whole pass of voices?
It doesn't sound familiar, but I don't, again, sometimes I say, oh, here we've got some lines to record, and they won't tell me anything more than that.
Here's the lines, yeah.
Yeah, but really, so I don't know. Tell me, tell me more about that.
They did a skin. So Tassadar, Here's the Storm's like a hero-based MOBA. You pick your character and you run around, and you can buy skins, and some have different voices. And for Tassadar, the one that has a completely different voice set is basically, if you've seen Transformers, I assume. Kind of an Optimus Prime. He turns into a plain robot, and all of his voice lines are kind of jabs at Transformers as a series. So I don't know if that rings a bell. Let me bring up. Oh, you're bringing it up. Yeah, I don't know if this will. Again, they don't tell you much, so I'm not sure this.
When was this? Do you know?
This was shortly. Go ahead.
It was shortly after the original Tassadar skin was released, and then they just I don't know if they release them all at the same time. Sometimes they do it in DLC forms, but I know specifically for him and a few others, they released them, and then a couple months later they came back and did skins for almost all the characters.
Yeah. What year would that have been? Do you know?
I have no idea.
2016. Let me make sure I have that right.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly possible.
2015.
2015. So yeah, like 9 years ago.
Oh boy, don't remind me.
This is regular Tassadar.
It's definitely possible, and I mean it could very well have been. They may have said, "Here we're doing," and I may not have even understood exactly. We're doing this skins thing, and here are the lines, and but they don't. It's this way with most video games. They even, if you work on it, it's under a code name, so that you can't even say. I mean, you sort of, if it's something familiar, then you know what it is, but you're not supposed to say anything, and they only give you the information that you need at that moment. Usually, sometimes if it's like in something established, they'll tell you what's going on. They'll show you the artwork, and they'll give you the story of what's going on. It was that way a lot with Gears of War. Speaking about another character that sort of didn't have much of an appearance really in Gears of War 1, who's Anthony Carmine. He gets killed, but for some reason he made some kind of an impression, and enough so that fans were like, "Oh, we want him back," and so they brought him back. But it was his brother, Benjamin Carmine, in Gears of War 2. Then he gets killed, and then it became a whole thing, like the Carmine brothers. And then there was a third brother, Clayton. It was going alphabetical. Anthony, Benjamin, Clayton. And then Clayton is still alive. But it was always like, okay, they just didn't want anybody to know what was going on.
Yeah.
And
So, you mentioned with Carmine kind of the fan reaction. Have you ever gotten that because especially with Tassadar, I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, he's an heroic character. I think what would Tassadar do, that kind of stuff. Have you gotten that for specific characters or?
Well, certainly, Deckard Cain.
Yeah, I figured that'd be the big.
And the Carmine brothers, and sometimes some of the Disney stuff. The Elder Scrolls Skyrim stuff sometimes. But I remember one time what happened. I was at the bank, and I think I had lost my credit card, so I had to replace it. So I just went to the bank, and I'm talking to, it was a young guy, and he was helping me out, and filling out the stuff. He goes, okay, what is your, occupation? I said, actor, voice actor. And he said, oh, like, what do you do? I just mentioned, video games and cartoons. And he said, what video games? And I just said, there have been a bunch of them. Do you play video games? He said, yeah. I said, what are some of your favorites? He said, well, my favorite is Diablo. And so I kind of went, that's very interesting. And he just completely freaked out in the bank. He said, oh my God, what? Are you Deckard Cain? And from then on, awesome. I always had he doesn't work there anymore, but I felt like, I've got an ally at the bank.
You got your in. If you ever need to plan a heist.
So sometimes something like that does happen, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't know, and but and that couple of times Tassadar, I'm not even sure. I think I went to a convention last year in Dallas, the Fan Expo, and there was, when I was on the plane, there was some of the other voice actors that were there, and there was one guy who I didn't really know, just met him while we were getting on the plane, and so we just chatted a little bit, and then during the flight, I remember he came up to me with his phone. He goes, oh my God, dude, you're Tassadar?
Awesome.
I said, oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really flattering, whenever it happens.
That's always that's good. Have you gotten a chance to play any of the games, or are you kind of more? I know some actors aren't as much into the gaming space.
I can't say that I'm a big gamer. I've only kind of played along with some other people. I mean, I love working on them. I would love to play more. I'm just afraid that I'm knowing my kind of obsessive, compulsive nature. I'll just go down rabbit holes.
It's a rabbit hole. Yes. I know you mentioned in other interviews that you've at least gone through the cinematics. Have you, especially to catch up on Tassadar for Heroes? Have you gone through that for all the Diablos? Because I know there's a lot of Deckard cinematics there.
Well, gee, are there? I mean, I know there's I can only think of one actually, and maybe you know more.
Maybe I'm wrong. Now that I'm thinking about it, I thought he kind of did the voiceover for all of 2, but I could be.
Well, the one that I'm thinking of starts out with a voice of his, and there's animation and wind blowing and flocks of birds flying, and it's amazing. And then
that for the 3, yeah,
for 3, with him and what's her name?
Leah, yeah.
Leah.
You're good.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing cinematic, and it ends up with them getting hit with the evil ball of fire and falling into the pit. And I don't. Are there other?
I know there's ones he's voiced in the older ones, but I'm the StarCraft lore guy. I play Diablo, but it's
Yeah.
we
I
love
would-
you for Tassadar.
People are going to be really mad at us for not knowing what we're talking about with Diablo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
We're
kind
sorry, guys.
I should. Yeah, I'd like to find out if there. I
Yeah.
know that there's like all the like Cain's, the Book of Cain,
Yes,
and
yes.
him narrating like pages and pages of stuff, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And I know, Tassadar has a fancy one too, but is non-speaking, so I assume that's why.
I think I just saw something online. I was just looking up Tassadar earlier, and it's like a cinematic, I think, that somebody created.
Oh yes, we were going to ask about that. It's
Yeah.
First Contact, I think it's called. Yes, that's.
Yep.
If you've seen any of the fan stuff, because he's a very popular character.
He really is. Everybody
Yeah,
loves him.
I just saw that like
Right.
yesterday. I thought it looked really.
Yeah. Like I said, Intaro Tassadar is a real, like, everybody says it now. It's not Intaro and Dune anymore. It still is,
Yeah.
kind of, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What's that first word? How do you spell that? I don't remember.
Entaro,
E-N
and
space T-A-R-R
Taro, one R, like the
And-
drink.
Warner. Okay.
Taro.
Freaking
And
nerd over here. I'm just kidding.
and Taro. Tassadar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the sacrifice of Tassadar in the first game? Were you told about it early, or did you not even really realize it was a sacrifice until later? Like,
Yeah. That's more like it.
oh,
I didn't.
okay.
It was like it was kind of a surprise.
All right.
And again, it's trying to remember. I mean, I remember that it happened, and I was like, oh well. It's like a twofold thing. It's like, oh, in the context of the story, it's like a heroic act, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But from my perspective, it's like, oh, shoot, he's dead. Or
There goes my future.
Yeah.
Dead.
Although you never know. I mean, that's what happened with. I wasn't crazy about the way Deckard Cain met his.
I was gonna ask about that. Yeah, not many people were.
I mean, it just
Yeah.
sort of like, whoops, there he goes.
Dies to a mini boss.
I was thinking there's got to be like a cinematic death scene on his deathbed. Something would have been more appropriate.
At least with Tassadar, they did something.
Yeah. Tassadar went out like a champ, though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
got at least one of the roles.
Yep. Did you voice anything else at all in StarCraft besides Tassadar?
Not that I remember. Now, sometimes, at the end of a session, they'll say, hey, we've got just a couple of little incidental things, which could be just like a creature or something, going, or maybe like just a quick little,
Maybe you
yes, mode, some kind of a servant or something. It could have been something like that, but
yeah.
We've been on a hunt because StarCraft listed all the voice actors, but not what they did. So we're trying to get the proper credits to who did what.
Well, you guys are highly qualified for.
We're trying.
We're trying, man.
It's so long ago for most people that are like, I don't remember. So
yeah.
I mean, it was about 30 years ago. So
30, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all from me, unless you.
There's a unit in. This is like the second to last question. There's a unit in the files of StarCraft 1 that say Archon, which is a combination of Tassadar and Zeratul. Was there a story thing that was deleted where Zeratul and Tassadar like merge into a powerful being or something? Does that sound at all familiar?
Something about merging with another entity does sound familiar. But now, did that happen with Mal'Ganis at all?
No, Mal'Ganis just gets stabbed.
So,
wow, I'm getting spoiled right and left here, but that's okay.
Warcraft 3's that's the first campaign of Warcraft 3, so you're not getting spoiled much.
All right, that's fine.
That does ring a bell. As far as what the details of that were, I couldn't tell you. But for some reason, as soon as you said that, I thought, I think I do remember something about like another personality kind of at least merging or taking over for a while. I don't know if that's
it could be. I mean, what happened in the end was merging two energies, one from kind of a reconciliation of two races that hated each other, and Tassadar merges their energies, and then he blows up. So, okay.
Well,
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with our final question. And this one might be obvious, it might not be obvious. Who knows? What is your favorite race in StarCraft?
Protoss.
Yep. Most voice actors have gone with the one they voice.
Do you or Tassadar even have anything to say to the viewers before we're done?
Sacrifice is always honorable, but if you can survive to tell the tale, that is most desirable.